Billionaire husband left me to have a baby with someone else. A year later, he saw my twin sons. I'll fulfill my marital obligations tonight, but understand this. I will only ever have a child with the woman I truly love. The words fell from my husband's mouth like shards of glass, cutting into my skin as I stood there in my wedding dress. My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them against the silk of my gown just to keep them still. "Griffin," I whispered. "We just got married 6 hours ago." He didn't even look at me. He was too busy loosening his tie, staring out at the San Francisco skyline like I wasn't even in the room, like I wasn't his wife, like I hadn't just promised him my entire life in front of 300 people. "I know exactly how long we've been married, Thea. That doesn't change reality. This arrangement is temporary. Sloan understands I'm trapped by my grandmother's demands. Once I secure my position as CEO and satisfy the requirements, we can end this quietly." Sloan. He said her name with such tenderness, such longing. The woman he actually wanted. The woman I could never be. But what Griffin didn't know that night, what I wouldn't discover for another 3 weeks, was that I was already carrying his children. Twins. 2 little boys growing inside me while their father planned his escape to another woman's arms. And what neither of us knew was that in 7 months, I would overhear a conversation that would shatter everything I thought I understood about my marriage, about Griffin, about the woman he claimed to love. A conversation about blackmail, about sealed court documents, about a 17-year-old boy's mistake that could send him to prison, about extortion disguised as romance. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we dive into this journey, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications, because this story has more twists than you can imagine. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, or just say I'm with you, Dr. Phillips. This is going to be a ride, and I want you with me for every moment of it. Now, let me take you back to where it all began, to the night my entire world fell apart before it even had a chance to start. The honeymoon suite at the Fairmont was the most beautiful room I'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A California king bed with sheets that probably cost more than my entire college wardrobe. Champagne chilling in a bucket that I knew neither of us would touch. The ivory wedding gown that Adelaide, Griffin's grandmother, had selected, without asking my opinion, felt like it was suffocating me. $20,000 worth of silk and seed pearls and hand-stitched lace, and all I wanted was to tear it off and run. But I couldn't run. My family's design firm was drowning in debt that the Ashford family had created through systematic corporate sabotage. This marriage was the ransom demand. "Give us your daughter, and we'll stop destroying everything your father built." My dad had explained it to me 3 months earlier in our kitchen, tears streaming down his weathered face. He'd worked for 30 years to build Moreland design studios from nothing, and in 6 months, Ashford Tech had dismantled it piece by piece, poaching clients, undercutting bids, spreading rumors about financial instability. "Baby girl," he'd said, his voice breaking, "I would never ask this of you if there was any other way. I know, Dad. They're offering to absorb the company under favorable terms, clear all our debts. But the price is—" I know what the price is. And I'd said yes, because what choice did I have? Watch my father lose everything he'd spent his life building? Watch my parents lose their home, their retirement, their dignity? So I'd walk down that aisle with my eyes wide open. Or so I thought. I thought I could handle an arranged marriage. People did it all the time, right? Marriages started for practical reasons and sometimes grew into real partnerships. Maybe not passionate love, but respect, companionship, a shared life. I hadn't expected Griffin Ashford to look at me on our wedding night with such complete indifference, such casual cruelty. He poured himself bourbon from the suite's bar cart, his movements precise and detached. The amber liquid caught the light as he took a long drink. He still hadn't looked at me, not really, not like I was a person who deserved his attention. "Did you hear me, Thea? I heard you." My voice came out steadier than I felt, which was something. I forced myself to meet his eyes. "You were very clear about your intentions. Good." He set down his glass. "I need you to understand the reality of our situation. My grandmother orchestrated this marriage to secure the CEO position for me and to merge our companies. Your family agreed to save themselves from bankruptcy. We're both trapped, but I refuse to pretend this is anything more than a business contract." The word trapped kept echoing in my head. He saw himself as the victim here. Poor Griffin Ashford, billionaire heir, forced to marry beneath his station. "And Sloane?" I asked, surprised by my own boldness. His entire face transformed when I said her name. The cold indifference melted into something almost human, something soft and longing and completely absent when he looked at me. "Sloane is none of your concern. She's very much my concern when you're discussing having children with her while standing in our honeymoon suite. This suite, this marriage, none of it changes what I feel for her." Griffin moved to pour himself another drink. "Sloane has been patient. She understands the impossible position my family put me in. Once I've fulfilled my obligations here, we'll be together properly." "Legal obligations," I repeated, tasting the bitterness of the words. "That's what I am to you. You knew what this was." He finally turned to face me fully. "Your parents explained the arrangement. Nobody promised you a love story." He was right, technically. I had known. But knowing intellectually that the marriage was transactional, and standing in a honeymoon suite listening to your husband plan his future with another woman were two completely different types of pain. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. "Now we fulfill the terms." Griffin's voice was flat, businesslike. "You'll move into the estate. We'll attend necessary social functions together. You'll provide an heir to satisfy my grandmother's obsession with legacy. In exchange, your family's debts disappear, and your father's company gets integrated into Ashford Tech under favorable terms." An heir. He said it so casually, like discussing a merger clause rather than a human being. "And between providing your heir and attending your parties? Between that, we live separate lives. I won't monitor your activities if you don't monitor mine. Discretion is the only requirement." Something cold and hard was forming in my chest, replacing the softness I'd tried to maintain through this entire nightmare. A protective shell building itself around my heart, layer by layer. "You want me to be silent while you continue your relationship with Sloane, to smile for cameras and play the beautiful wife while knowing I'm nothing but an inconvenient obstacle. I want us to be realistic about what this is." Griffin met my eyes with something that might have been pity, which somehow made it worse. "I didn't choose this any more than you did. The difference is, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The difference is you have Sloane waiting. You have someone who makes this bearable. I have nothing but the knowledge that the man I married views me as a prison sentence." Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe, or the ghost of a conscience, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "I'm not trying to hurt you, Thea. You're just not trying not to hurt me. There's a difference." The silence that followed felt like drowning. This man was my husband, legally, permanently my husband, and he was already gone, already committed to a future where I existed only as a footnote in his real-life story. "We should get some sleep." Griffin's voice was tired. "Tomorrow we leave for the estate. My grandmother is expecting us for brunch." "Of course she is." "Heaven forbid we miss a photo opportunity." I heard him enter the bathroom, heard the shower start. The sound of running water felt obscene somehow, too ordinary for the devastation happening in this room. When he finally emerged and slipped into the bed, I was still standing by the window in my wedding gown. I couldn't bring myself to take it off yet. Couldn't face the intimacy of changing clothes in front of this stranger. Griffin turned his back to me immediately, claiming his side of the massive bed like he was setting a boundary, like he was making it clear that even here, even in this one space we're married, couples were supposed to be closest, we would maintain our distance. I finally forced myself to move, to unhook the endless row of buttons down my spine, to step out of the gown and leave it pooled on the floor like shed skin. I pulled on the nightgown I'd bought for this trip, simple white cotton that suddenly felt ridiculous. What had I been thinking? That my wedding night would be romantic? When I slipped into the bed, the space between us felt vast and unbridgeable. Griffin's breathing had already deepened into sleep, or a convincing performance of it. I lay rigid, staring at the ceiling, counting my breaths, trying to survive each moment until dawn. The city lights filtered through the sheer curtains, casting shadows across the ceiling. I watched them shift and blur as tears finally escaped, sliding silently into my hair. This was my life now. This cold distance. This casual cruelty. This knowledge that I would never be enough because he'd already decided I wasn't worth trying for. Somewhere in the endless dark hours, Griffin murmured in his sleep. A name, soft and tender. The name he'd said with such longing earlier. Sloane. Even unconscious, even in dreams, his heart belonged to her. Never to me. Always to the woman waiting for him somewhere across the city, patient and understanding, and everything I apparently wasn't. I pressed my hand against my flat stomach. The gesture was automatic, protective, even though there was nothing there to protect yet. Nothing growing, nothing forming, just the possibility of the children he'd told me he'd only ever want with someone else. And I made a vow in that moment, silent but fierce. If I ever did have his children, if babies ever resulted from this nightmare, they would never beg for their father's love. They would never internalize the message that their existence was an inconvenience. I would love them with enough ferocity to fill every void he created, would build them strong enough to survive their father's indifference, would teach them that their worth was inherent and absolute, not dependent on whether anyone chose to see it. The vow felt like armor forming, like something solid I could hold on to in this quicksand of a marriage. Morning arrived with brutal sunshine. Griffin woke first, showering and dressing with the same efficient detachment. He glanced at me once before leaving the bedroom, his expression unreadable. I stayed in bed after he left, staring at the wrinkled wedding gown on the floor. $20,000 of silk and lace and broken dreams. Someone would come collect it later. Preserve it in acid-free tissue paper, store it like it was precious, like it represented something beautiful instead of the worst night of my life. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from my mom. How's married life, sweetheart? We're thinking of you. I stared at the message, unable to formulate a response that wasn't either a lie or a confession that would destroy her. She'd cried when I'd agreed to this arrangement. Apologized over and over for not being able to protect me from this fate. It's fine, I finally typed back. Everything's fine. The lie tasted like ash, but it was kinder than the truth. The Ashford estate was waiting. The drive from the city took 45 minutes, winding through increasingly exclusive neighborhoods until we reached wrought iron gates that opened onto a private road. Oak trees lined the driveway, their branches creating a canopy overhead. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like entering a very expensive prison. The house itself was a masterpiece of modern architecture. All clean lines and massive windows and carefully curated landscaping. 23,000 square feet of minimalist perfection where nothing looked lived in or loved, just displayed. Adelaide Ashford was waiting in the foyer when we arrived. 76 years old and still formidable, wearing pearls at 10. In the morning, and a smile that never reached her calculating eyes. Welcome home, dear. The word home sounded like a threat. I've prepared the guest house for you. Griffin's suite is in the main residence, which should provide adequate privacy. Adequate privacy. Code for adequate distance. Code 4. We all know this marriage is a sham, so let's not even pretend you'll be sharing a bedroom. Thank you, I managed. Adelaide's gaze traveled over me with clinical assessment, measuring, evaluating, probably calculating how long it would take for me to produce the required air so they could figure out what to do with me after. We'll have brunch on the terrace in 30 minutes. I've invited a few family friends. Everyone is eager to meet Griffin's new bride. Of course they were. Eager to inspect the nobody he'd been forced to marry. Eager to compare me to Sloane Whitaker and find me wanting. Griffin had disappeared already, claiming he needed to check in with his office, leaving me alone with his grandmother in this cavernous foyer. A staff member appeared to show me to the guest house, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I'm Margaret, she said. I manage the household. If you need anything, please let me know. Thank you. The guest house was through the garden, tucked behind rose bushes and ornamental trees. Separate from the main residence, separate from Griffin, separate from everything. It was beautiful, objectively. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a living area with a fireplace, decorated in neutral tones that suggested no actual person lived here. Just a very expensive hotel suite pretending to be a home. My suitcases were already there, looking pathetic and small in the massive walk-in closet. I had maybe 15 outfits total. The closet could hold hundreds. I sank onto the edge of the bed and tried to breathe through the panic rising in my chest. This was my life now. This beautiful, sterile cage. This performance of marriage with a man who could barely stand to look at me. My phone rang. My best friend Kira's name flashing on the screen. "Hey," she said when I answered. "How's the estate? Is it as ridiculous as it sounds? It's something." I tried to keep my voice light. "Very minimalist. That's code for soulless, right?" "Pretty much." "And Griffin?" I couldn't answer that. Couldn't put words to the devastation of last night without falling apart completely. "That bad?" Kira's voice softened. "I can't talk about it yet, but I'm okay. I'm surviving. Surviving isn't living, Thea. It's all I've got right now." After we hung up, I forced myself to unpack. To hang my inadequate wardrobe in that massive closet. To arrange my toiletries in the bathroom. To try to claim some small corner of this space as mine. I placed my grandmother's quilt across the bed. Navy blue with yellow stars, hand-stitched over months when she was dying of cancer. It was the only thing in this entire guest house that felt real. That carried love and history and meaning beyond its monetary value. Brunch was exactly as excruciating as I'd anticipated. 12 people on the terrace, drinking mimosas and making polite conversation while dissecting me with their eyes. Adelaide held court at the head of the table, managing the narrative with practiced ease. Thea's family owns Moreland Design Studios, such a lovely boutique firm. We're very pleased to be bringing them into the Ashford portfolio. Boutique was code for small, for insignificant, for not in our league. "How did you two meet?" one of the women asked, her smile sharp with curiosity. "Through family connections," Griffin answered smoothly. "Sometimes the best partnerships come from unexpected places." Partnership, as though we were colleagues instead of husband and wife. The questions continued. Where did I go to school? What were my interests? What did I think of the estate? Each one designed to highlight the gulf between my background and theirs. I answered with careful politeness, playing my part. The grateful recipient of Ashford generosity. The lucky girl who'd married up. The nobody who should be thrilled with her circumstances. By the time brunch ended, my face hurt from maintaining a pleasant expression. Griffin disappeared immediately after, claiming urgent business calls. Adelaide cornered me in the hallway. "A word, dear." We moved into her private study, a room that smelled of old leather and older money. She gestured for me to sit. "I want us to understand each other, Thea." Adelaide's voice was pleasant, but her eyes were ice. "This marriage serves a specific purpose. You provide an heir, you attend necessary functions, you maintain appropriate appearances. In exchange, your family's financial difficulties disappear, and you have access to resources you could never achieve on your own. I understand the terms. Do you? Because I need to be clear about expectations. The Ashford family has maintained its position for 4 generations through careful management of image and legacy. We don't tolerate scandal or embarrassment. I have no intention of embarrassing anyone. Good. Then we'll get along fine." Adelaide stood, dismissing me. "Dr. Morrison will be calling to schedule your first appointment. It's important we establish baseline health before conception. I can choose my own doctor." The room went very quiet. Adelaide turned slowly, her expression hardening. "Dr. Morrison has served the Ashford family for 30 years. I'm sure he's very qualified, but I'll be selecting my own physician." Adelaide's smile turned brittle. "I see. How very independent of you. It's my body, my health care. I should have a say in who provides it." For a long moment, I thought she might argue further, but something in my expression must have convinced her I wouldn't back down on this. "Fine, but I expect regular updates on your condition once pregnancy occurs. The family has a vested interest in the health of any potential heirs." Of course. I left her study, feeling simultaneously victorious and terrified. I'd won this small battle, but I'd also revealed that I wouldn't be the docile, obedient daughter-in-law Adelaide expected. That evening, Griffin appeared at the guest house. He stood in the doorway, not quite entering, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome in the space that was theoretically mine. My grandmother said you were difficult about the doctor situation. I was clear about my boundaries. There's a difference. You don't need to fight every small battle, Thea. It just makes things harder for yourself. Harder than what? Harder than being told I'm a contractual obligation? Harder than listening to my husband plan his future with another woman? Harder than being inspected and evaluated and found wanting by your grandmother's society friends? Griffin sighed, running his hand through his dark hair, a gesture of frustration I was already learning to recognize. This doesn't have to be war. You made it war the moment you told me you'd only have children with the woman you love. You drew the battle lines, Griffin. I'm just learning to fight on them. What do you want from me? I want you to see me as a human being. I want you to acknowledge that your choices are hurting me. I want you to take responsibility for the cruelty, instead of acting like we're both equally victims of circumstance. He looked away, jaw tight. I never wanted to hurt you. You just didn't care enough not to. And that's somehow worse. Griffin left without another word, and I sat alone in my beautiful prison, wondering how I was supposed to survive this. Not just days or weeks, but potentially years, decades, a lifetime of being invisible to the man I'd married. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the garden in the darkness, trying to calm the anxiety crawling under my skin. The estate was quiet, just the sound of crickets and my own footsteps on the stone path. I found a bench hidden behind the rose bushes and sank onto it, pressing my hands against my face, trying to hold myself together through sheer force of will. First day is always the hardest. I startled, looking up to find a man I didn't recognize. Late 60s, silver hair, kind eyes. He smiled gently. I'm Lawrence, Griffin's uncle. I saw you from the library window. Thought you might need some company. I'm fine. You're not fine, but that's understandable. Lawrence sat on the other end of the bench, maintaining respectful distance. This family has a way of consuming people, especially people who marry into it. You sound like you speak from experience. 2 marriages, both disasters. I learned too late that the Ashford way of doing things leaves casualties. He looked at me carefully. You seem like someone who might survive it, though. You've got steel in you. I don't feel very steel-like right now. Steel gets forged in fire. It's not comfortable, but it's effective. We sat in silence for a while, just the darkness and the roses and the acknowledgement that I wasn't completely alone in this. My nephew is a fool, Lawrence said eventually, but he's a fool in a cage of his own making. That doesn't excuse his behavior, but it might explain it someday. What do you mean? Lawrence studied me for a long moment, seeming to weigh whether to say more. Then he shook his head. Some things you'll need to discover yourself, but when you do discover them, when you start putting pieces together, come find me. I might be able to help. He stood to leave, then paused. And Thea, whatever happens, whatever you learn, trust your instincts. Document everything. Protect yourself. This family will eat you alive if you let them, but you don't strike me as someone who lets people do that. After he left, I sat alone with his cryptic words echoing in my head. What did he mean? A cage of Griffin's own making? What was I supposed to discover? But I was too exhausted to puzzle it out, too drained from maintaining my composure through an entire day of performance. I made my way back to the guest house, climbed into bed with my grandmother, his quilt pulled tight around me, and finally let myself cry. Not pretty tears, but the ugly, gasping kind that felt like drowning on dry land. This was my life now, and I had to find a way to survive it. 3 weeks later, I knew something was wrong. Or right, depending on how you looked at it. The nausea hit first, sudden and overwhelming, sending me running for the bathroom at 7 in the morning. Then again at 9, and again at 11. By the 3rd day of relentless morning sickness, I knew. But I waited until the 4th day to take the test. Waited until I was alone in the guest house, no staff around, no chance of Adelaide somehow finding out before I was ready. I sat on the bathroom floor, hands shaking as I watched the test develop. 1 line, 2 lines, positive. I was pregnant, with Griffin Ashford's child, the child he'd made very clear he only wanted with Sloane. I should have felt horror, panic, dread at being tied to this man permanently through a baby he didn't want. But staring at those two lines, I felt something else entirely. Determination. Fierce, protective, unshakable determination. This baby would be mine. Completely, thoroughly mine. I would love this child enough for two parents. Would build them strong enough to survive their father's indifference. Would give them everything I'd never had. Security and certainty and unconditional love. My hand moved instinctively to my still flat stomach. A protective gesture. A promise. "I've got you," I whispered. "Whatever happens, whoever your father chooses to be, I've got you." I made an appointment with Dr. Sarah Chen, the OB-GYN I'd carefully selected against Adelaide's protests. A woman with excellent credentials and, more importantly, a reputation for patient advocacy over family politics. The appointment was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, I had to decide when and how to tell Griffin. The decision was made for me 3 days later when the morning sickness intensified so badly that Margaret found me doubled over in the garden, dry heaving into the rose bushes. "Miss Thea, you need to see a doctor." "I have an appointment scheduled." "I'm fine, Margaret." But she'd already called Adelaide, who appeared within minutes, her expression sharp with suspicion and something that looked like satisfaction. "You're pregnant." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the certainty of someone who'd been waiting for this exact development. "I don't know yet. I haven't confirmed anything." "Don't be ridiculous. I've seen enough pregnant women to recognize the signs." Adelaide pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Dr. Morrison. I said I'm handling my own health care. This isn't about you anymore, dear. This is about an Ashford heir. The family has certain requirements. The family can wait for medical confirmation before making requirements." We stared at each other, a battle of wills playing out in Adelaide's perfectly manicured garden. Finally, she smiled. A cold, calculating smile that made my skin crawl. "Fine. Confirm it with whatever doctor you insist on using. But understand this, Thea. The moment that pregnancy is verified, everything changes. You're no longer just Griffin's unfortunate obligation. You're carrying the next generation of Ashfords, and that comes with expectations you can't even begin to imagine." She left me there, shaking with reaction and morning sickness and the sudden, terrifying understanding that my pregnancy wouldn't free me from this family. It would bind me to them more tightly than ever. I called Kira that night, needing to hear a friendly voice. "I think I'm pregnant." "Think or know?" "Pretty sure. I have a doctor's appointment next week to confirm." Kira was quiet for a long moment. "How do you feel about it?" "Terrified, determined, fiercely protective of something the size of a poppy seed." "Have you told Griffin?" "Not yet. I don't even know how." "Hey, remember how you said you'd only have kids with the woman you actually love? Surprise, you're having one with me instead." "Thea, I know it's not the baby's fault, but I can't help dreading his reaction." "His reaction doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're okay and the baby is healthy." "Babies, actually." "What?" I don't know why I said it. Some instinct, some knowledge settling in my bones. "I think it's twins." Kira laughed. "You're catastrophizing." "Maybe, or maybe I just have a feeling." The feeling proved accurate the following week when Dr. Chen did the ultrasound. "Well," she said, smiling at the screen, "that explains the intense morning sickness. You're carrying twins." I stared at the monitor, at the two tiny fluttering heartbeats, and burst into tears. Not sad tears, not scared tears, something more complicated. Joy and terror and overwhelming love for these two little beings who hadn't asked to be born into this disaster. "They're healthy?" I managed. "Everything looks perfect. You're measuring about 7 weeks. Due date is approximately March 15th. 7 weeks, which meant I'd gotten pregnant almost immediately. Probably the wedding night or shortly after. The universe had a dark sense of humor. Dr. Chen printed out ultrasound photos, and I held them like precious artifacts. Two tiny shapes, barely recognizable as human. My sons. I already knew they were boys. Don't ask me how. I just knew. Now came the hard part, telling Griffin. I found him in his office at the main house that evening. He looked surprised to see me. We'd barely spoken since I'd moved into the guest house. Ships passing in the night, living separate lives on the same property. I need to talk to you. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of quarterly reports. No, it can't wait. Something in my tone made him look up fully, his dark eyes scanning my face, probably noting the paleness, the shadows under my eyes from constant nausea. What's wrong? I'm pregnant. With twins, due in March. The words fell into the silence like stones into still water, ripples spreading outward, changing everything. Griffin's face went completely blank. Not angry, not happy, just blank. Already? Biology doesn't consult our preferences. I kept my voice steady. I thought you should know. Have you told my grandmother? Not yet. You're the father. You get to know first. He stood, moved to the window, his back to me. I watched his shoulders rise and fall with careful breaths, watched him process this development that neither of us had wanted but that was now unavoidable reality. This complicates things, he said finally. Complicates things. That's how he described the creation of two human lives. A complication, yes, it does. Sloan won't be happy, and there it was. Even now, even faced with the news that his wife was carrying his children, his first concern was for her. For the woman he actually wanted. I'm sorry my pregnancy is inconvenient for your girlfriend. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, laced with all the hurt and anger I'd been swallowing for weeks. She's not my girlfriend. She's... He stopped, shook his head. Never mind. When did you find out? Confirmed it this morning. But I've suspected for about a week. And you're sure? It's definitely twins. I held out the ultrasound photos. 2 heartbeats, 2 babies, very sure. He took the images, stared at them like they were written in a foreign language. These tiny, shadowy shapes that represented his children, his sons, and he looked at them like they were abstract concepts rather than real. My grandmother will be pleased, he said finally. This satisfies the heir requirement quickly. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Thea? That I'm thrilled? We both know this marriage is a business arrangement. These children are part of that arrangement. These children are human beings. Your sons, they deserve better than being called part of a business arrangement. They'll have everything they need. The best schools, the best opportunities, trust funds that will set them up for life. What more could they want? A father who actually wants them. I took back the ultrasound photos. But I guess that's too much to ask. I left his office before he could respond, clutching those precious images against my chest. My babies, mine. Their father might view them as complications and contract fulfillments. But I would love them enough to make up for his indifference. I would have to. Adelaide summoned me to the main house the next morning. I found her in the sunroom. Tea service laid out like we were having a pleasant chat instead of a confrontation. Griffin told me the news. Twins. How fortunate. Fortunate wasn't the word I'd use, but I kept that thought to myself. I've already contacted Dr. Morrison. He'll take over your care immediately. High-risk pregnancies require specialized attention. Dr. Chen is perfectly qualified to manage a twin pregnancy. And I'm not switching doctors. Adelaide's smile turned sharp. I see you're determined to be difficult about everything. I'm determined to make my own medical decisions. That's not being difficult. That's being an adult. You're carrying Ashford heirs. That makes it family business. I'm carrying my children. That makes it my business. We stared at each other across the tea service, neither willing to back down. Finally, Adelaide sighed. Fine. Use whatever doctor you prefer, but I expect regular updates on the pregnancy's progress. And you'll need to move into the main house. The guest house isn't appropriate for newborns. I'll stay in the guest house. Thank you. It has everything I need, including the distance from Griffin and Adelaide that I desperately required to maintain my sanity. Adelaide set down her teacup with precise care. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You're trying to control every aspect of my life and my pregnancy. I'm simply establishing boundaries. Boundaries. Adelaide laughed, a cold sound with no humor in it. You sweet, naive girl. You have no idea what you're up against. This family will consume you if you let it. Fighting us every step of the way will only make you miserable. Then I'll be miserable on my own terms instead of miserable on yours." I left before she could respond, my hands shaking with adrenaline. I was 7 weeks pregnant with twins and already exhausted from the constant battles. How was I supposed to survive 7 more months of this? The answer came from an unexpected source. Lawrence found me in the garden that afternoon, sitting on the same bench where we'd talked before. "I hear congratulations are in order. News travels fast. Adelaide called me this morning." Lawrence sat down. "Wanted to know if I thought you'd be amenable to moving into the main house under supervision." I told her you struck me as someone who valued independence. That's a polite way of saying stubborn. Stubborn people survive in this family. Compliant ones get destroyed. He looked at me seriously. "I'm going to give you some advice, and I hope you'll take it. Document everything. Every conversation with Adelaide, every interaction with Griffin, every decision about your pregnancy. Keep records, save messages, build a paper trail." Why? Because I've watched this family operate for 68 years, and I know how they handle inconvenient complications. Right now, you're useful because you're carrying heirs. But the moment those babies are born, you become expendable. Adelaide will try to separate you from them if she thinks she can raise them according to her vision without your interference. She wouldn't. I heard the doubt in my own voice, even as I said it. She absolutely would. Lawrence pulled out a business card. "This is Reese Donovan, best family lawyer in California. Call her. Establish a relationship now, before you need one desperately." I took the card, my hand trembling slightly. "You really think it'll come to that?" "I think you should be prepared for the possibility." Lawrence stood. "And Thea? Whatever you do, don't sign anything Adelaide puts in front of you without having a lawyer review it first, especially after the babies are born. She'll present it as routine paperwork, but it won't be." After he left, I sat staring at the business card. Reese Donovan, family law specialist. The fact that Lawrence thought I needed a lawyer was terrifying, but also validating. I wasn't being paranoid. The danger was real. I called Reese that evening. She answered on the second ring. "Reese Donovan, my name is Thea Ashford. Lawrence Ashford gave me your number. I'm pregnant with twins, and I think I might need legal protection from my husband's family. Tell me everything." And I did. The arranged marriage. Griffin's cruel dismissal. Adelaide's controlling behavior. The overheard conversation about satisfying heir requirements and then handling me. My fear that they would try to take my children. Reese listened without interrupting, and when I finally fell silent, she spoke with calm authority. "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to keep a detailed journal. Dates, times, exact quotes when possible. You're going to save every text message, every email, every piece of documentation. You're going to photograph or scan any paperwork they ask you to sign before signing it. And you're going to call me immediately if Adelaide or Griffin threaten you in any way." "Okay. And Thea, you were smart to call me now. Most people wait until it's too late, until they're already losing custody battles they didn't see coming. We're going to make sure you're protected." After we hung up, I felt simultaneously better and worse. Better because I had an advocate. Worse because I needed one. That night, I started the journal, a simple leather notebook where I documented everything. The wedding night conversation, the guest house assignment, Adelaide's demands about medical care, Griffin's reaction to the pregnancy news, every detail carefully recorded. It felt like preparing for war, which, I was beginning to realize, was exactly what this was. The pregnancy progressed. Morning sickness evolved into all-day sickness. Exhaustion hit like a freight train. My body was growing 2 humans, and it was relentless work. Griffin maintained his distance. He'd ask occasionally how I was feeling, with the polite concern of an acquaintance rather than the father of my children. He didn't come to any doctor appointments, didn't ask to see ultrasound pictures beyond that first set, didn't engage with the pregnancy in any meaningful way. He was too busy with Sloan, presumably. I didn't ask, didn't want confirmation of what I already knew, but Lawrence had planted a seed of curiosity. What had he meant about Griffin being in a cage? What was I supposed to discover? The answer came when I was 17 weeks pregnant, my belly just beginning to show, making the pregnancy impossible to hide. I was walking through the estate garden, needing air and movement after hours of nausea. The library windows were open, and voices drifted out. Griffin's voice, tight with something that sounded like pain, and Adelaide, cold and calculating. I should have kept walking, should have respected their privacy, but something made me stop, made me step closer to the hedge, where I could hear, but not be seen. Sloane has made her terms very clear, Adelaide was saying. Either you end this marriage after the children are born, or she releases the evidence about Cameron. I froze. Cameron, Griffin's younger brother. What evidence? Cameron was 17. Griffin's voice cracked. He made a mistake. It wasn't. It was vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, Griffin. Adelaide cut him off. The settlement kept it quiet, but Sloane's father was the attorney who made it disappear. She has copies of everything. Court documents that were sealed, medical reports, witness statements. If any of it surfaces, Cameron goes to prison for a crime that happened 8 years ago. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling any sound. Cameron, sweet, quiet Cameron, who worked with at-risk youth, who'd been sober for 7 years, who'd made a terrible mistake as a teenager and paid for it every day since. So I keep playing devoted husband for how long? Griffin's voice was raw. Another year? 5 years? Until she decides my brother has suffered enough. Until the children are old enough that custody won't be questioned. We'll offer Thea a settlement, generous enough to make her disappear quietly. The boys will be raised properly as Ashfords, and Cameron's secret stays buried. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the stone bench to keep from falling. They were planning to take my babies, to bribe, or force me to surrender custody, to make me disappear. And Griffin wasn't just a selfish man choosing desire over duty. He was being blackmailed. Sloane wasn't his grand love. She was his extortionist. This changes everything, I thought. And nothing at all. Because yes, Griffin had reasons for his cruelty. But he'd still chosen to wound me. He could have told me the truth, could have trusted me with this burden, instead of shouldering it alone and making me collateral damage. I backed away from the window before they could discover me, made it to the guest house on shaking legs, sank onto my couch with both hands pressed protectively against my growing belly. My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to make the call. Reese, it's Thea. I just discovered something that changes everything. I need to see you immediately. I'll clear my schedule. Can you come to my office this afternoon? I'll be there. Before I left for the city, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, hands on my 17-week belly, where August and Everett were growing. I'd started thinking of them by name already. August for strength, Everett for brave. They would need both. I've got you, I whispered to them. Your father is trapped, and your grandmother is scheming, and the woman he thought he loved is blackmailing him. But I've got you, and I'm going to protect you from all of it. The armor around my heart grew thicker, stronger, because I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was protecting them, and there was nothing I wouldn't do to keep my sons safe. Reese Donovan's office was in a sleek downtown high-rise with views of the bay. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an air of complete competence. The kind of woman who walked into courtrooms and made opposing counsel nervous. She listened as I explained everything I'd overheard. The blackmail, Cameron's sealed juvenile record, Sloane's leverage, Adelaide's plan to take the twins after they were born. When I finished, Reese leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. This is actually very good news for you. How is any of this good news? Because it gives us leverage, and it proves that your husband's abandonment isn't just cruelty. It's coercion. That distinction matters legally. She pulled out a legal pad. Tell me everything you know about Cameron's case. I only know what I overheard. Vehicular manslaughter. He was 17. Sloane's father was the attorney who got it sealed. That's enough to start with. Reese made notes. Sealed juvenile records can be unsealed under certain circumstances, especially if there's evidence of ongoing extortion related to them. If we can prove Sloane has been using this information to manipulate Griffin, For years, we can potentially get law enforcement involved, but that would expose Cameron. Not necessarily. There are ways to handle this that protect him while still dismantling Sloane's power. But I need you to do something difficult. What? You need to tell Griffin that you know. You need to confront him about the blackmail and offer to help him escape it. Why would I help him? He spent months treating me like garbage. Because he's the father of your children, and those children deserve a father who isn't being controlled by an extortionist. Reese met my eyes steadily. And because right now, you and Griffin have a common enemy. Adelaide wants to take your babies. Sloane wants to control Griffin forever. You're both victims of the same system. The question is whether you're smart enough to work together to dismantle it. She was right, and I hated it. Hated that helping Griffin was the strategic move. Hated that I had to be the bigger person when he'd been so cruel. But she was right. What do I say to him? You tell him the truth. You overheard the conversation. You know about Cameron. You know about Sloane's blackmail. And you have a lawyer who specializes in exactly this kind of case. Then you offer him a choice. Work with you to protect your children and destroy Sloane's leverage. Or continue being her puppet and watch as Adelaide takes those children from both of you. And if he refuses, then we build a case so airtight that when the custody battle comes, you win. But I think he'll accept your help. Men like Griffin don't enjoy being controlled. Give him a path to freedom, and he'll take it. I left Reese's office with a plan and a sick feeling in my stomach. Confronting Griffin meant making myself vulnerable. Meant admitting I'd been eavesdropping. Meant offering alliance to someone who'd hurt me deeply. But it also meant protecting August and Everett. And that mattered more than my pride. I found Griffin in his office that evening. He looked surprised to see me. We'd barely spoken since I'd told him about the pregnancy 3 weeks ago. We need to talk. And before you say you're busy, this is about Cameron and Sloane and the fact that you're being blackmailed. All the color drained from his face. He stood abruptly, moved to close the office door, then turned to me with something like fear in his eyes. How do you know about that? I overheard you and Adelaide in the library. I wasn't trying to spy. I was just walking in the garden, and the windows were open. Griffin sank back into his chair, suddenly looking 10 years older. How much did you hear? Enough. Vehicular manslaughter, sealed records, Sloane's father being the attorney, her threatening to expose everything if you don't do what she wants. He put his head in his hands. This is why I couldn't tell you. Why I had to keep you at distance. Sloane said, if she thought I cared about you, she'd use you against me too. Better for you to hate me and be safe. That's coward's logic, Griffin. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself from having to be vulnerable. Maybe. Probably. He looked up, his eyes red. But Cameron was 17. He'd been drinking at a party. The accident killed a college student. If that record gets unsealed, he goes to prison for something he did as a stupid kid. Something he spent 8 years trying to atone for. I know, and I'm not suggesting we let that happen. Then what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we work together to destroy Sloane's leverage so completely that she can never threaten your family again. I sat down across from him. I have a lawyer, Reese Donovan. She specializes in blackmail and extortion cases. She thinks we can dismantle this without exposing Cameron, but we need your cooperation. Why would you help me? After everything I've done to you? Because you're the father of my children, and they deserve better than a dad who's being controlled by a criminal. And because Adelaide is planning to take August and Everett from me the moment they're born, and I need an ally to fight her. Griffin's expression hardened. She told you that? I overheard that too. The plan to offer me a settlement and make me disappear once the babies are old enough. The expectation that I'll just hand over custody because I'm too insignificant to fight the Ashford family. Over my dead body. The ferocity in his voice surprised me. Whatever else is broken between us, those are our children. Adelaide doesn't get to take them from their mother. Then help me. Help me build a case against Sloane. Help me protect our sons. We don't have to like each other or fix our marriage, but we can be allies in this. Griffin was quiet for a long moment, studying me like he was seeing me for the first time. Really seeing me, not just the inconvenient wife he'd been forced to accept. What do you need from me? Everything you have on Sloane. Every communication, every threat, every piece of evidence of the blackmail. Dates and times of when it started, how often she makes demands, what exactly she's threatened. We need to build a complete picture. He nodded slowly. I'll get you everything. But Thea, if this goes wrong, if she releases that information about Cameron, then we'll deal with it. But doing nothing guarantees you stay under her control forever. Is that really the life you want? No. God, no. Then trust me. Or, if you can't trust me, trust Reese. She knows what she's doing. We spent the next 2 hours going through Griffin's files, emails from Sloan that were carefully worded but clearly threatening, text messages with veiled references to keeping secrets safe, financial records showing irregular payments he'd made to her over the years, disguised as gifts, but clearly more like tribute. When did this start? I asked, reading through a particularly nasty email from 2 years ago, about 6 months after her father died. She inherited his files and found the sealed records about Cameron's case. At first, she just hinted that she knew, made comments about how loyal she was, how she'd never betray family secrets. Then the demands started getting more explicit. What kind of demands? Money, mostly. And time. She expected me to be available whenever she wanted, to attend events with her, to play the role of devoted almost boyfriend while never quite committing. Griffin's jaw tightened. I thought I was protecting Cameron. I didn't realize I was just trading one prison for another. Did you ever love her? Or was that always part of her manipulation? He was quiet for so long, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed. I don't know anymore. Maybe in the beginning there was something real, but it's been so twisted by the blackmail that I can't separate genuine feeling from coerced performance. Mostly I just feel tired. We compiled everything into organized files for Reese. By the time we finished, it was past midnight. Griffin walked me to the door of his office. Thea, I'm sorry. For everything. For the wedding night. For the cruelty. For making you feel invisible. I was drowning, and I took you down with me, and that's unforgivable. You're right. It is unforgivable. But I'm not doing this for an apology or redemption. I'm doing it for August and Everett. August and Everett, our sons. That's what I'm naming them. Something soft crossed his face. Those are good names. Strong names. They'll need to be strong, growing up in this family. Maybe we can make the family better. For them, maybe. But that's a long road, Griffin. Don't expect me to forget months of pain because of one honest conversation. I don't. But maybe it's a start. I left feeling confused. One honest conversation. I don't. But maybe it's a start. I left feeling confused and angry, and something else I couldn't quite name. Not forgiveness, not trust, but perhaps the faintest possibility that we could be functional KO parents, if not partners. The next weeks were a blur of pregnancy symptoms and legal strategy. Reese worked with frightening efficiency, building a case against Sloan while also preparing custody protection documents for me. She's done this before, Reese told me during one meeting. Sloan, I found 2 other men who were in relationships with her around the same time she started targeting Griffin. Both relationships ended badly, and both men made substantial financial settlements to her. So, she's a professional extortionist. Essentially, she finds wealthy men with secrets, cultivates relationships with them, then squeezes them for money and control. Your husband is just her most successful long-term target. Can we prove it? I'm working on it. I've contacted the other men. One is willing to testify about her pattern of behavior. The other is still too afraid of exposure. My pregnancy progressed. At 24 weeks, my belly was undeniably large. August and Everett making their presence known with constant movement. Dr. Chen said everything looked healthy, but warned me that twin pregnancies often resulted in premature delivery. You need to reduce stress, she said during one appointment. Your blood pressure is elevated. Are you getting enough rest? I'm trying, but there's a lot happening right now. Whatever it is, it's not worth risking the baby's health. Find ways to decompress, meditation, prenatal yoga, whatever helps you relax. But relaxation felt impossible. I was documenting everything in my journal, meeting with Reese twice a week, coordinating with Griffin about the case against Sloan, avoiding Adelaide's increasingly intrusive questions about nursery preparations and nanny interviews. And through it all, I was growing two humans, my body stretching and changing to accommodate them, feeling their hiccups and kicks and rolls, talking to them every night, promising them they were wanted and loved. At 32 weeks, I couldn't walk without waddling, couldn't sleep comfortably in any position, couldn't eat more than small amounts before running out of room. August and Everett were running out of space, pressing against my ribs and bladder with equal enthusiasm. Griffin had started attending doctor appointments. Not everyone, but some. He'd sit quietly while Dr. Chen did measurements and checked heartbeats, his expression unreadable. After one appointment, he asked if he could feel them move. I was so surprised I just nodded. He placed his hand carefully on my belly, and right on cue, Everett kicked hard against his palm. Griffin's entire face transformed, wonder and fear, and something that looked like the beginning of love. "They're real," he whispered. "Of course they're real. What did you think they were?" "I don't know. Abstract concepts, maybe. Contract fulfillments. But that was a person. A tiny person who's going to be born and have opinions about things and expect me to know what I'm doing. Join the club. I've been terrified for months. You don't seem terrified. You seem like you have everything under control. I'm an excellent actress." Inside, I'm screaming constantly. He smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in months. "We might be terrible at this, probably, but maybe we can be terrible at it together instead of separately." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even friendship yet, but it was something. A fragile alliance built on mutual fear and shared responsibility. At 35 weeks, Reese called with news. "We have enough. Documented pattern of extortion, testimony from one of her previous targets, evidence of the blackmail against Griffin. I'm ready to confront her with a choice, surrender the sealed records, and sign a confession, admitting to years of extortion, or we go to the DA and she faces federal charges." "When?" "As soon as you're ready. But given your pregnancy timeline, I'd suggest we move quickly. If you go into labor in the middle of this, things get complicated. Let's do it this week." The confrontation was scheduled for Thursday, a conference room in Reese's office building, neutral territory. Sloane arrived in designer clothes and expensive perfume, her blonde hair perfect, her expression curious and slightly amused. "Griffin, darling." She smiled at him. "What's this about?" "Sit down, Sloane." Reese's voice was ice. "We have some things to discuss." I watched as Reese laid it all out, the evidence of blackmail, the pattern of extortion with other men, the federal charges Sloane would face if this went to trial. Sloane's mask cracked beautifully, the amused confidence giving way to fury, then fear, then calculation. "You can't prove any of this. We can prove all of it." Reese slid documents across the table. Signed statements, financial records, your own emails and texts. "You're looking at 10 to 15 years in federal prison for extortion and blackmail. Griffin won't testify against me. He can't risk exposing Cameron. I don't need Griffin to testify. I have everything I need from the other victims of your pattern of behavior. But I'm prepared to offer you an alternative to prosecution." "What alternative?" "You surrender every copy of the sealed records related to Cameron Ashford. You sign a confession admitting to years of blackmail. You agree to have no further contact with the Ashford family, and you leave California permanently. And if I refuse, then I file charges tomorrow, and you spend the next decade in a federal facility." Reese leaned forward. "Your choice. Sign and disappear, or fight and lose everything." Sloane looked at Griffin, something desperate in her eyes. "You'd really let them do this to me? After everything we've meant to each other?" "We never meant anything to each other." Griffin's voice was cold. "You used me. You threatened my brother. You've been extorting me for years while pretending it was love. I want you gone." Her hand shook as she signed the documents. The confession, the agreement to surrender all copies of Cameron's sealed records, the promise to leave California and never contact any Ashford family member again. When it was done, she stood with as much dignity as she could muster. "You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing what you were sooner. Now get out." After she left, the room felt lighter. like a dark cloud, had finally dispersed. "It's over," Griffin said, sounding dazed. "She's really gone. She's really gone." Reese gathered up the signed documents. "I'll file these with the court tomorrow. The sealed records will be returned to proper custody, and Sloane's confession ensures she can't come back without facing immediate prosecution." Griffin turned to me, his eyes bright. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough. You can thank me by being a good father to our sons. That's all I want. I will. I swear I will." We left the conference room together, and for the first time since our wedding, we felt like we were on the same team. But the relief was short-lived. That night, at 2 a.m, I woke to searing pain and the wetness of my water breaking. Labor had started. At 36 weeks, 4 weeks early, I fumbled for my phone, called 911, then Griffin. The contractions were coming fast, too fast, stealing my breath. Griffin answered on the third ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Thea? The babies are coming. I'm calling an ambulance. Meet me at the hospital. I'm on my way." The ambulance ride was a blur of pain and terror. Too early. They were coming too early. Please, let them be okay. Please. Dr. Chen met me at the hospital, her face calm but serious. "We're going to monitor you and the babies. Twin pregnancies at 36 weeks often do fine, but we need to be prepared for NICU support." The labor was brutal. Hours of contractions that felt like my body was tearing itself apart. August and Everett's heartbeats fluctuating on the monitors, showing their distress. Griffin arrived 2 hours in, his hair disheveled, his eyes wide with fear. He grabbed my hand, and I didn't pull away. I needed something to hold on to. "We need to do a C-section," Dr. Chen said finally. "The babies are showing too much distress. We can't wait for vaginal delivery." They wheeled me into surgery. Griffin stayed with me, holding my hand, his face pale above the surgical mask. "You're doing great," he kept saying. "They're going to be fine. You're all going to be fine." I wanted to believe him. The surgery happened fast. I felt pulling and pressure but no pain, the epidural doing its job. Then I heard it, a thin, angry cry. Then another. "2 boys," Dr. Chen announced, "small but breathing on their own." "Can I see them?" They brought August first, tiny and red and furious, screaming his protest at being born too soon. Then Everett, quieter but alert, his dark eyes trying to focus. "Hi, babies," I whispered. "I'm your mom. You're safe now." They whisked them away to the NICU for evaluation. Griffin followed, while I went to recovery. When I finally got to see them hours later, they were in incubators, plastic boxes keeping them warm and monitored. August weighed 4 pounds 3 ounces. Everett was 4 pounds even. So tiny, so fragile. "They're fighters," the NICU nurse said. "Good oxygen levels, strong heartbeats. They just need time to grow." I pressed my hand against August's incubator, wishing I could hold him. "Can I touch them?" "Not yet. Their immune systems are too vulnerable. But soon." Griffin stood between both incubators, looking at his sons with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Complete, overwhelming love mixed with terror. "They're so small. They're perfect. What if I mess this up? What if I don't know how to be what they need?" Then you learn. That's what parenting is, figuring it out as you go. He looked at me. "I'm sorry I wasn't there when labor started. I should have been with you. You're here now. That's what matters." Over the next days, we lived at the hospital, learning the rhythms of the NICU, the beeping monitors, the feeding schedules, the careful monitoring of every vital sign. August had some lung issues initially, needing oxygen support. Everett developed jaundice and spent time under Billy lights. Every small setback felt catastrophic. Griffin was there more than I expected, not constantly, but regularly, learning to change impossibly small diapers, reading medical charts, asking nurses questions. Lawrence visited every day, bringing me food and encouraging words. "They're Ashfords. They're stubborn. They'll pull through." Adelaide came once with a photographer to get pictures of her with the twins for society announcements. She spent exactly 17 minutes in the NICU before leaving. Make sure the hospital sends me all medical records. I need to know everything about their conditions. You'll get updates when I decide to give them. I didn't look away from August. These are my sons. I decide who gets information about them. Adelaide's expression hardened. We'll discuss your attitude when you're feeling more rational. After she left, the NICU nurse raised her eyebrows. That's your mother-in-law? Unfortunately, she seems lovely. The nurse's sarcasm made me smile for the first time in days. On day 12, August crashed. His oxygen levels plummeted without warning. Alarms screamed. Medical staff swarmed his incubator. I stood frozen, watching them work to save my son, unable to breathe, unable to think beyond please, please, please. Griffin was in a meeting downtown. I called him, my voice shaking. August is crashing. You need to come now. I'm in an important presentation. Can it wait? The words hit me like a physical blow. Our son was fighting for his life and he was asking if it could wait. No, Griffin, it cannot wait. Get here now or don't bother coming at all. I hung up and focused on August, on the doctors working to stabilize him, on praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in. They saved him, adjusted his ventilator settings, gave him medication, brought his oxygen levels back up. He's stable, Dr. Chen said, but this is why we're monitoring him so closely. Preemie lungs are unpredictable. Griffin never came, never showed up during the crisis. He texted 3 hours later. Meeting ran long. How is August? I saved the text message, added it to my documentation of abandonment. Evidence for the custody battle I knew was still coming despite our temporary alliance. On day 28, the twins came home, still small but healthy enough to leave NICU monitoring. 4 weeks of hell, but we'd survived. Adelaide had prepared the main house nursery. Professional designers, custom furniture, everything coordinated in shades of gray and white. I rejected it completely. The boys will stay with me in the guest house. I've prepared their nursery there. Don't be ridiculous. The main house has better facilities, staff support. The guest house has their mother. That's all they need. Adelaide's fury was palpable, but she couldn't stop me. Not yet. Not while I was breastfeeding and the twins were so young. I set up their nursery in soft blues and greens, warm colors that felt alive. Pictures of my family on the walls. My grandmother's quilt folded in the rocking chair. This was our space, our fortress, and I would defend it with everything I had. Griffin came to visit on their second day home. He stood awkwardly in the nursery, holding August with visible nervousness. Support his head. There you go. He's so light. I'm afraid I'll break him. You won't. Babies are tougher than they look. Everett started crying, and I picked him up, settling into the rocking chair to nurse him. Griffin watched with something like awe. You make it look easy. It's not easy. It's exhausting, but it's worth it. Can I help? With anything? Come back tomorrow. Same time, and the day after, and the day after that. Show up consistently, not just when it's convenient. He nodded. I can do that. We'd see. Talk was easy. Following through was the hard part. That night, alone with my sons, I held them both in the big chair and sang lullabies my grandmother had taught me. You're safe, I whispered. You're loved, and I will protect you from everything, even the people who should protect you themselves. August yawned. Everett made small suckling movements in his sleep. They were mine, completely, thoroughly mine, and I would fight heaven and hell to keep them. The next morning, Adelaide appeared at the guest house with legal documents. I need you to sign these. Standard paperwork establishing the boys' trust funds. I'll have my lawyer review them first. That's unnecessary. These are routine. If they're routine, my lawyer will confirm that quickly. I held out my hand. I'll get them back to you in a few days. Adelaide's smile was sharp. You're making this more difficult than it needs to be. I'm protecting my children. If that's difficult for you, that's your problem, not mine. After she left, I called Reese. Adelaide just tried to get me to sign documents about trust funds without legal review. Don't sign anything. Bring them to my office today. The documents turned out to be exactly what Lawrence had warned about. Buried in the legal language was a clause giving Adelaide guardianship rights, allowing her to make medical and educational decisions without my consent. If you'd signed this, you'd have essentially given her co-custody. Reese's expression was grim. This is exactly the kind of maneuver I expected from her. What do? We draft our own custody documents. Explicit terms that you have sole legal and physical custody. Griffin can have visitation rights, but all major decisions go through you. And we file them with the court before Adelaide can make another move. Do it. Over the next weeks, we built my fortress. Legal documents protecting my custody. Financial arrangements ensuring I wasn't dependent on Ashford money. Escape plans in case things got worse. And through it all, I learned to be a mother to twins. The endless feeding cycles. The sleep deprivation that felt like torture. The joy of watching them grow and change every day. Griffin kept showing up. Not perfectly, not always on time, but consistently. Learning to change diapers and warm bottles and soothe crying babies. One afternoon, Everett was screaming inconsolably. I'd been trying to calm him for an hour, exhausted and at my limit. Can I try? Griffin asked. Be my guest. He took Everett, held him against his chest, and started humming. Some melody I didn't recognize, and miraculously, Everett quieted. How did you do that? No idea. Beginner's luck? But it wasn't luck. It was the beginning of Griffin learning to be a father. When the twins were 3 months old, I filed for legal separation. Not divorce, but formalized distance. Primary physical custody of August and Everett. Child support. Access to marital assets for child-related expenses. Griffin received the papers at his office and called immediately. What is this? This is me, protecting our sons, and myself. You and I aren't a real marriage, Griffin. We never were. This just makes official what's already reality. Where will you live? I'm staying in the guest house for now, but eventually, I'll get my own place. Somewhere that's mine, not Ashford property. My mother is going to lose her mind. Your mother is planning to take my children. I'm simply staying ahead of her. He was quiet for a long moment. I won't fight you on this. You're right. We're not a real marriage. You deserve to build your own life. Thank you. But Thea, I want to keep seeing the boys, keep being part of their lives. Then, show up. Keep showing up. Prove you're serious about being their father. I will. And slowly, impossibly, he did. The legal separation became official. I remained in the guest house, but with formal custody protection. Adelaide raged about it to anyone who would listen, but there was nothing she could do. Griffin settled into a routine. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, Saturday afternoons. He learned the boys' schedules, their preferences, that August liked books and Everett liked music, that both of them needed their mother when tired or scared. It wasn't the family I'd imagined, but it was functional, honest, built on reality instead of fantasy. At the twins' 6-month checkup, Dr. Chen smiled. They're thriving. Perfect weight gain, hitting all their milestones. You're doing an excellent job, Thea. We're doing an excellent job. Griffin was there for this appointment, had made sure his schedule was clear. Both of us. Dr. Chen's expression was approving. Co-parenting done right. The boys are lucky. Walking out of the medical building, Griffin carrying August in his car, Seed and me carrying Everett. We must have looked like a normal family. Divorced parents making it work for their kids. And maybe that's what we were becoming. Not romantic partners. Not even friends exactly, but allies in raising 2 small humans who deserved better than the disaster that created them. Griffin turned to me in the parking lot. I know I don't say this enough, but thank you for fighting Sloan, for protecting the boys, for giving me chances I didn't deserve to be their father. You're welcome. But Griffin, this isn't about you earning my forgiveness. This is about you being who they need. That's a lifetime commitment, not a 6-month project. I know, and I'm in it for the lifetime. Time would tell if that was true. But for now, for today, it was enough. I loaded Everett into my car, watched Griffin secure August in his, and drove back to the guest house. My sons, my fortress, my life built from the ruins of a wedding night that tried to destroy me. I'd survived, more than survived. I'd transformed devastation into strength. And this was just the beginning. The twins were 8 months old when I enrolled in the MBA program at Berkeley, online courses that I could complete during nap times and after bedtime. It was insane, objectively, raising twins alone while pursuing a graduate degree. But I needed it, needed something that was mine, that proved I was more than just an Ashford incubator. Margaret found me at the kitchen table one night, August and Everett asleep in their cribs. My laptop opened to a strategic management lecture, textbooks scattered everywhere. "You're going to burn yourself out, Miss Thea." "Probably, but I'm going to get this degree first." She smiled, setting down a cup of tea I hadn't asked for, but desperately needed. "You remind me of my daughter. Stubborn as hell, begging your pardon, but in the best way. How's your daughter doing?" "She's a surgeon now. Told everyone it was impossible. Single mother with 2 kids trying to get through medical school. She did it anyway. That's what I'm counting on. The impossible becoming possible through sheer stubbornness." The coursework was brutal. Financial analysis and organizational behavior and market strategy. Concepts I had to learn while functioning on 4 hours of sleep. But I was good at it. Better than good. The same skills I developed navigating Ashford family politics translated perfectly to business strategy. My professors didn't know I was an Ashford. I used my maiden name Moreland for all my coursework. Wanted to succeed on my own merit, not because of my marriage to a tech billionaire. Griffin noticed the textbooks one Saturday when he came for his visit with the boys. "You're getting your MBA? Online program through Berkeley. I graduate in 18 months if I can maintain the pace." "That's ambitious." He looked genuinely impressed. "Are you sleeping at all?" "Sleep is overrated. Coffee is underrated. If you need help, childcare or anything, just ask." "I've got it handled, but thank you." I didn't want his help. Didn't want to owe him anything beyond what he owed me as the father of our children. This degree was mine, my achievement, my path to independence. At 10 months, August took his first steps, not toward me, toward Lawrence, who'd been visiting during his morning walk. "Come here, little man. Come to Uncle Lawrence." And August launched himself forward, 3 wobbly steps before collapsing into Lawrence's arms. I burst into tears, overwhelmed by joy and exhaustion and the bittersweetness of milestone moments. Lawrence held August, his own eyes damp. "Thank you for letting me be part of their lives, Thea. My own children barely speak to me. These boys are a gift. You show up. That's all that matters." Everett took his first steps 2 days later, walking toward the television, because Sesame Street was more interesting than any human encouragement. Classic Everett, marching to his own drummer from birth. Griffin missed both milestones. He was traveling for business. I texted him videos, documented the moments, but it wasn't the same as being there. When he returned and I mentioned it, guilt flashed across his face. "I should have been here." "Yes, you should have. But you're building your consistency. Missing some things doesn't erase the times you've shown up. That's generous of you. It's not generous. It's realistic. You're their father, not their primary parent. Different roles, different expectations." He absorbed this quietly. I could see him processing, adjusting his understanding of what fatherhood meant. The twins' first birthday arrived with surprising speed. I organized a small party at the guest house. Just family, close friends, nothing like Adelaide's society circus. Kira flew in from New York. My parents drove up from their new condo in San Jose, paid for by the settlement that had saved my father's company. Lawrence came with his partner Michael, who I'd grown to adore. Even Cameron appeared, 7 years sober now, working as a youth counselor. Griffin arrived early to help set up, and we worked together with practiced ease now. Hanging streamers, setting out food, testing the sound system for the music Everett loved. "They've grown so much," my mother said, holding August. "I can't believe they're already 1. "Time moves differently when you're not sleeping," I said. "You look tired, sweetheart." "I'm always tired, but I'm happy." And I was, exhausted and overwhelmed and drowning in graduate coursework, but genuinely happy. These boys had given me purpose. Fighting for them had given me strength. Building a life on my own terms had given me freedom. The party was chaotic and perfect. August demolished his smash cake with serious concentration. Everett got frosting everywhere, including somehow in his ear. Griffin took approximately 800 photos, his expression soft with something that looked like love. After everyone left and the twins were finally asleep, Griffin helped me clean up. This was nice. The party. Watching them with your family. They love the boys. They love you. Your dad couldn't stop talking about how proud he is. Your MBA program, rebuilding the design firm, raising the twins alone. He thinks you're a superhero. I'm not a superhero. I'm just doing what needs to be done. That's what superheroes say. We finished cleaning in comfortable silence. This was what we'd become. Friendly co-parents. Allies in raising our sons. Nothing more, but also nothing less. As he was leaving, Griffin paused at the door. I started therapy. Real therapy. Not the corporate counseling Adelaide arranged years ago. Working with a trauma specialist. That's good. I'm glad. She's helping me understand patterns. How I blamed circumstances instead of taking responsibility. How I used Sloane's blackmail as an excuse for cruelty that was really just cowardice. What made you start? Watching you survive everything I put you through and come out stronger. I realized I needed to become someone worthy of being their father, not just showing up, but actually being whole enough to give them what they need. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to encourage his growth. Part of me was still too hurt to care about his journey. Keep doing the work, I finally said. Not for me. For August and Everett. After he left, I sank onto the couch and let myself feel the complicated mess of emotions. Anger at who he'd been, acknowledgement of who he was becoming, wariness about trusting the change, and underneath it all, bone-deep exhaustion. My phone buzzed with a text from Kira. You okay? You seemed sad at the party, just tired, and weirdly emotional about them turning one. It's been the hardest year of my life, and you survived it. You're amazing, you know that? I'm just stubborn. Same thing. The twins' second year brought new challenges. They learned to climb, which meant nothing was safe. Learned the word no, which they used constantly. Developed distinct personalities that became more pronounced daily. August was thoughtful, cautious, preferring books to rough play. He'd sit for 30 minutes examining picture books, pointing at animals and waiting for me to name them. He noticed everything, remembered everything, had an elephant's memory for promises and routines. Everett was chaos incarnate, climbing furniture, dancing to any music, making friends with every person he encountered. He had no fear, which meant I had constant fear for him. But his joy was infectious. He laughed at everything, found wonder in the ordinary, approached the world like it was designed for his entertainment. They were perfect. Completely, thoroughly perfect. Griffin's visits became more natural. He learned what they liked to eat, how to soothe them when upset, the difference between tired crying and hurt crying. He bought a house 2 blocks away, close enough for easy CEO parenting, but far enough to respect my space. The house was nice. 3 bedrooms, a yard, normal and suburban, instead of Ashford estate grandiose. He set up a nursery for the boys, bought duplicates of their favorite toys, created a space where they could be comfortable during his custody time. I help you set it up? I offered when he mentioned buying furniture. You do that? Co-parenting works better when the kids are comfortable in both homes. Show me what you're thinking and I'll give feedback. We spent a Saturday shopping for toddler beds and dressers and blackout curtains. Griffin pushed the cart while I evaluated options, and strangers probably assumed we were married, a normal couple preparing for their children. The illusion was nice, even if it was completely false. This one is good quality, I said, examining a convertible crib. And it'll grow with them, convert to a toddler bed when they're ready. Sold. Griffin didn't even check the price. You should at least look at the cost. Thea, I'm a billionaire. The price of furniture is not my concern. Whether it's safe and functional is. Fair enough. We got everything loaded into his Tesla, and he drove me back to the guest house. Thank you for helping today. I would have been completely lost. You would have figured it out. But I'm glad I could help. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret it? The marriage, The twins, all of it? Do you wish you'd said no and let your dad's company fail instead? I was quiet for a long moment, considering honest answer versus easy one. Decided on honesty. I regret how it started. I regret your cruelty on our wedding night. I regret the loneliness and the fear and the feeling that I was disposable. But I don't regret August and Everett. They're the best thing that ever happened to me, even though they came from the worst circumstances. I regret all of it. Every choice I made, every word I said. If I could go back, but you can't. None of us can. We can only be better going forward. He nodded slowly. I'm trying, I know. When the twins were 18 months old, Adelaide made her move. I received legal documents via courier, a petition for grandparents' rights, requesting joint custody and decision-making authority over August and Everett. The filing claimed I was mentally unstable, financially dependent, and incapable of providing appropriate care. I called Reese immediately, my hands shaking with rage. She's trying to take them. Adelaide filed for custody. I expected this. Don't panic. We have everything we need to fight her. The evidence Adelaide presented was laughable. Photos of toys scattered in my living room as proof of chaos. Statements from nannies I'd fired claiming I was overwhelmed. Medical records showing I'd lost weight postpartum, twisted to suggest eating disorders. Reese compiled our counter-evidence. My completed MBA with honors. Financial records showing I'd rebuilt Moreland Design Studios into a thriving firm. Doctor's notes confirming I was healthy. Testimony from Dr. Chen about my exemplary prenatal and postnatal care. Photos and videos of the twins thriving, happy, well-adjusted. And testimony from Griffin. He sat across from Reese and me, his expression serious. I'll testify that you're an excellent mother, that the boys are thriving in your care, that Adelaide's claims are baseless and motivated by control rather than concern. And I'll testify about her embezzlement from family foundations if necessary. Lawrence documented everything. We have evidence of fraud going back years. This was the nuclear option. Exposing Adelaide's crimes would destroy her, but it would also potentially destroy the Ashford reputation. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Reese said. But it's good to have leverage. The custody hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. 6 weeks of Adelaide's lawyers trying to dig up dirt. 6 weeks of documented supervised visits with the twins that Adelaide had to request through formal channels. She hated it. Hated asking permission to see her own grandchildren. Hated that I had the power to say no. But I didn't say no. I let her visit, always with Margaret present as witness, documenting every interaction. Adelaide was careful during these visits, playing the doting grandmother role. But her eyes were cold. You're making a mistake, fighting me. I'm protecting my children from someone who views them as property rather than people. They're Ashford heirs. That comes with responsibilities you can't understand. They're toddlers. The only responsibility they have is learning to use the potty and being kind to others. You're teaching them to be soft, weak. I'm teaching them to be loved. There's a difference. The hearing arrived. We entered the courthouse with Reese and a folder full of evidence. Adelaide arrived with 3 attorneys and an air of absolute confidence. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Morrison. She reviewed the filings with careful attention, asking pointed questions to both sides. Mrs. Ashford, what specific concerns do you have about your grandson's care? Adelaide launched into prepared testimony. The unstable living situation, my lack of family support, the emotional burden of single parenting. She made it sound reasonable, concerned, grandmotherly. Then Reese presented our evidence, photos of the twins at the park, at music class, at library story time, documentation of their pediatric care, all appointments attended, all vaccinations up to date. My graduate transcript showing I'd maintained a 4.0 GPA while raising them. Financial records proving I was fully independent. Ms. Moreland, the judge said, why do you believe Mrs. Ashford filed for custody? Because she wants to control them. She views my sons as the next generation of Ashfords, and she believes she should have the authority to shape them according to her vision. She's not concerned about their well-being. She's concerned about her legacy. That's a serious accusation. I can provide evidence of her attempts to coerce me into signing away parental rights. Legal documents disguised as trust fund paperwork that would have given her guardianship authority. Testimony from household staff about her statements regarding removing me from the children's lives once they were weaned. Adelaide's face went red. Those are lies. I have the documents. I have recordings. I have witnesses. The judge's expression hardened. Mrs. Ashford, did you attempt to obtain guardianship rights through deceptive documentation? I was trying to protect my grandsons from an unstable situation. By lying about the content of legal documents you asked their mother to sign, I was ensuring appropriate protections were in place. Judge Morrison reviewed the documents in question, her expression growing colder. This petition is denied. Mrs. Ashford, you will have supervised visitation once monthly, scheduled at Ms. Moreland's discretion. Any future custody petitions will require substantial evidence of actual danger to the children, not speculation about their mother's capabilities. This court finds Ms. Moreland to be a fit and capable parent who has provided excellent care for her sons. The gavel came down, and it was over. Adelaide stood, her fury barely contained. You'll regret this. No, Adelaide, you'll regret underestimating me. Outside the courthouse, Lawrence was waiting. He testified on my behalf, providing documentation of Adelaide's embezzlement that we'd held in reserve but hadn't needed. She's going to make your life hell, he warned. She's been trying to do that since I married into this family. I'm not scared of her anymore. Good. You shouldn't be. Griffin appeared, having taken the morning off to attend the hearing, even though he hadn't needed to testify. You won. We won. The boys won. He pulled me into a hug, spontaneous and genuine, and I let myself sink into it for just a moment. Let myself appreciate the alliance we'd built from the ruins of our arranged marriage. Then I stepped back, reclaiming my space. I need to get back to the twins. Margaret's been watching them all morning. Can I come? I'd like to see them. Of course. We drove separately to the guest house, and when we walked in, August and Everett launched themselves at both of us with equal enthusiasm. Mama, Dada. Hearing Griffin called Dada still did something complicated to my heart, but watching him scoop up Everett and spin him around, both of them laughing, I felt something close to peace. This wasn't the family I'd imagined, but it was real and functional and built on honesty instead of fantasy. And maybe that was better. If you're still with me, if this story is resonating with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you know someone who needs to hear about surviving the unsurvivable, share this video. Now, let me tell you what happened next. The twins turned 2, then 2.5, then 3. Time moved in strange ways, simultaneously crawling and flying. I graduated with my MBA, honors, and a job offer from a major consulting firm that I turned down to focus on expanding Moreland Design Studios. My father's company, now mine, growing beyond anything he'd imagined. We landed major contracts, tech campuses, hotel chains, residential developments. My design aesthetic, warm and livable instead of cold minimalism, resonated with clients tired of sterile spaces. Griffin referred some business my way initially, but I made it clear I didn't want Ashford charity. I'm referring them because you're the best in the industry, not because we share children. Then I'll evaluate the projects on merit. And I did. Took the ones that interested me, declined the ones that didn't. Built a reputation separate from the Ashford name. Money started flowing in. Real money, earned money. I moved out of the guest house into a Craftsman in Berkeley. 3 bedrooms, a yard for the twins, a home office where I could work. The boys loved it. Their own rooms, painted in colors they'd helped choose. A treehouse in the backyard that Griffin and Lawrence built together. A kitchen where we baked cookies and made messes and lived. Griffin's custody time increased to 3 overnights a week. The boys moved seamlessly between homes, secure in both places because both parents prioritized their stability. And slowly, impossibly, Griffin and I became something like friends. We attended birthday parties together, coordinated on preschool selection, showed up jointly for parent-teacher conferences, divorced CO parents doing it right. According to our preschool director, "You two have figured out what so many divorced couples struggle with," she said. putting the children first. We don't have a choice, I replied. They deserve better than our damage. One afternoon at the park, Everett fell from the monkey bars. Nothing serious, just a scraped knee, but he was crying hard. Griffin reached him first, scooped him up, started examining the injury with capable hands. You're okay, buddy. Just a scratch. We'll get you cleaned up. I stood back and watched Griffin comfort our son. Watched him pull first aid supplies from the bag he now carried everywhere. Watched him clean the wound gently, while Everett hiccuped through tears. August appeared at my side, slipping his hand into mine. Dada's taking care of it, he said seriously. Like you take care of us. That's right, baby. Daddies and mamas both take care of their kids. We're lucky we have both. We are lucky. It was true, surprisingly. We were lucky that Griffin had transformed himself, lucky that he'd chosen to show up consistently, lucky that the boys had a father who loved them, even if that father and I would never be together romantically. After the park, Griffin brought the boys back to my house for dinner. It had become routine, him staying for meals when he dropped them off. All of us eating together, like a fractured but functional family. I made pasta while he supervised hand-washing. Set the table while he got Everett into a booster seat. We moved around my kitchen with practiced coordination. This is nice, Griffin said quietly while the boys were distracted by food. This normal family dinner thing. It is nice. But Griffin, you know this is as close as we get, right? CO parenting dinners and coordinated schedules. I'm not going to fall back in love with you just because you've become a good father. I know. His voice was sad but accepting. I'm not asking for that. I'm just grateful for what we have. Good. As long as we're clear. After dinner, he helped with bath time and bedtime stories. August insisted Griffin read his favorite dinosaur book, and Everett wanted me to sing the lullaby he loved. When both boys were finally asleep, Griffin and I stood in the hallway between their rooms. I'm dating someone, he said quietly, casually. Her name is Natalie. She's a teacher. I felt a strange flutter in my chest. Not jealousy exactly, but perhaps the ghost of what might have been. That's good. I'm glad. What's she like? Patient. Kind. Nothing like Sloane. Nothing like the relationship I thought I wanted when I was younger. It's healthy and normal, and honestly kind of boring in the best way. Does she know about me? The boys? She knows everything. I was honest from the start, about the arranged marriage, about Sloane's blackmail, about how badly I failed you. She appreciates the honesty. When do you want her to meet August and Everett? I was thinking 6 months. If we're still together then, if it feels serious. I wanted to ask your input first. 6 months is good. That shows you're serious about her. And I'd like to meet her before she's introduced to the boys, of course. And Griffin, I'm dating too. Casually, an architect named Marcus. The boys haven't met him yet, but eventually they might. I hope he's good to you. He is. He's steady and kind and he makes me laugh. It's nothing serious yet, but it's nice. We stood there in the hallway, two people who'd started in such darkness, now able to wish each other happiness with genuine sincerity. This is weird, right? Griffin smiled slightly. Ex-spouses being happy for each other's new relationships? Extremely weird, but also healthy. We're modeling for the boys that people can separate and still respect each other. That's very mature of us. Don't get too proud. We're still a disaster, just a functional disaster. He laughed, and it was genuine warmth. After he left, I poured myself wine and sat on my back porch, looking at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from Kira. How are things in complicated co-parenting land? Actually good. Griffin's dating someone. I'm dating someone. The boys are thriving. It's all very modern family. Look at you, being emotionally healthy and well-adjusted. Don't sound so surprised. I'm capable of growth. Never doubted it. You're the strongest person I know. The twins turned 4, then 4.5. They started pre-K at a progressive school that emphasized creativity and emotional intelligence, made friends easily, brought home artwork I displayed proudly on my refrigerator. Cameron visited often, having become Uncle Cam to the boys. He taught them about second chances and making amends and how mistakes didn't define you forever. I can't thank you enough. he told me one afternoon while we watched the twins play in the yard. For destroying Sloane's leverage. For giving me my life back. You've done the work yourself. 7 years sober, helping other kids avoid your mistakes. That's all you. Still, if she'd released those records, I'd be in prison right now. You saved my life. Your family. That's what family does. Lawrence remained their favorite adult after me. He took them to museums and bookstores and taught them about art and history. His partner Michael taught them to cook simple recipes, and they'd proudly present me with lopsided cookies they'd help make. My parents doted on them, thrilled to have grandchildren after years of thinking marriage and family might not happen for me. My mother took them for sleepovers and spoiled them appropriately. My father built them a train table and spent hours playing with miniature locomotives. This was my village. The people who showed up, who loved my sons, who made our lives richer. Moreland Design Studios landed a major contract designing the interiors for a new boutique hotel chain. 20 properties across the West Coast. The project would take 3 years and establish me as a major player in hospitality design. Griffin found out and sent congratulations. This is incredible, Thea. You should be proud. I am proud. I built this from nothing, from the ruins of what your family tried to destroy. My family tried to destroy it. I helped you rebuild it. There's a difference now. He was right. Griffin had facilitated introductions, provided references, supported my professional growth, not to earn forgiveness, but because he genuinely wanted me to succeed. Can I take you to dinner to celebrate? As friends, to acknowledge your achievement? I hesitated. Dinner felt intimate, felt like blurring lines I'd worked hard to establish, but it also felt mean to refuse when he was genuinely celebrating my success. Dinner, as friends, Dutch treat, and we talk about the boys and work, nothing deeper. Deal. We went to a small Italian place in Oakland, nothing fancy or romantic, ordered pasta and wine and talked about the hotel project, about the twins, preschool dynamics, about his work reforming Ashford Tech's labor practices. It was comfortable, easy, the conversation of two people who knew each other deeply but without romantic tension. You've become someone I respect, I said at one point. That's not something I ever expected to feel about you. I wasn't someone worthy of respect when we got married. I was a coward using circumstance as an excuse for cruelty. You were, but you've done the work to change. That matters. Does it matter enough for forgiveness? I set down my wine glass carefully. This is the thing, Griffin. I don't think about forgiving you anymore. I think about whether you're being a good father to our sons. I think about whether our CO parenting is functional. I think about my own life and work and whether I'm happy. Redemption arc is your journey. I'm not a stop on it, where you collect forgiveness and move on. That's fair. Hard to hear, but fair. We can be friendly. We can celebrate each other's successes and support each other as parents. But we're not getting back together. That ship sailed a long time ago. I know, and honestly, I think we're better this way. Better as CO parents and allies than we ever would have been as a married couple. I think you're right. Walking to our cars after dinner, Griffin paused. Thank you for giving me chances to be their father, for not shutting me out when you had every right to. You show up. You keep showing up. That's all I ever asked. I'll keep showing up for the rest of my life. Good. They deserve that. The twins turned 5 in the spring, old enough for kindergarten, old enough to tie their own shoes and sound out simple words and have complex thoughts about the world. The night before their first day of school, I sat on August's bed while he worried. What if the teacher doesn't like me? What if I don't make friends? The teacher is going to love you, and you'll make friends because you're kind and interesting and you share your toys. Will you be there when I get home? I'll be right here. Same house, same mama, always. In Everett's room, he had different concerns. Can I bring my dinosaur? Not to class, but you can keep him in your cubby for comfort. Will Dada pick us up sometimes? Sometimes Dada will pick you up, and sometimes I will. But we'll both always be here for you, even when we're not in the same room. Both boys needed extra cuddles that night, anxious about this new chapter. I held them and sang lullabies and promised them the world would be gentle. Griffin met me at the school the next morning. We'd coordinated without discussing it. both knowing this milestone required both parents present. The twins looked tiny in their new backpacks, holding our hands as we walked them to their kindergarten classroom. "I'm scared," August whispered. "Being scared is okay. You're brave enough to do it anyway." Everett marched in with typical confidence, found the block area, and started building immediately. August hesitated at the door, then saw another boy reading a dinosaur book and cautiously approached. The teacher, Mrs. Chen, smiled at us. "They're going to be fine. First days are always harder on parents than kids." "How do you know?" Griffin asked. "Because you're both still standing here watching through the window." We were, both of us, peering through the classroom door like creepers. "We should go," I said. "Just another minute." We stood there together, watching our sons navigate their first day of school, and I felt overwhelming pride. We'd done this, despite the arranged marriage and the blackmail and the custody battles, and all the damage. We'd raised two confident, kind, curious boys. "Coffee?" Griffin offered as we finally left the building. "Sure." We sat in a cafe near the school, nursing lattes, killing time until pickup. 5 years, Griffin said. 5 years ago, we were strangers, forced into marriage. Now we're sitting here, waiting to pick up our kids from kindergarten. A lot has happened in 5 years. You've built an empire. I've rebuilt myself into someone decent. The boys are thriving. Adelaide has minimal contact and no power over us. Sloan is gone. Cameron is healthy. Against all odds, we figured out how to make this work. We did. He looked at me seriously. "I need you to know something. I know we're not getting back together. I know you've moved on emotionally, but I want you to know that I see you. I see how remarkable you are. How you turned devastation into strength. The boys are lucky to have you. I'm lucky you let me try to be better. I appreciate that. And Griffin, you've become someone I'm glad my sons know. Someone who models what growth looks like. That's valuable. High praise from you. The highest I'm capable of." We picked up the boys at 3, and both came running out with stories tumbling over each other. I made a friend named Zara, and she likes dinosaurs too. We painted, and I made a rainbow, and Mrs. Chen said it was beautiful. That night, after dinner and bath and stories, after both boys were asleep, I sat in my home office looking at design mock-ups for the hotel project. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. How was their first day of school? Perfect. Terrifying for me, exciting for them. That's parenting in a nutshell. Dinner this weekend? I'd like that. Marcus was good for me. Steady and uncomplicated. He knew about my past, about Griffin, about the arranged marriage disaster. He wasn't intimidated by it or trying to fix it, just accepting me as I was now. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was healthy affection, and that felt valuable after years of toxicity. Another text came in, this time from Griffin. "Thank you for today, for letting me be part of it. They're your sons. Of course you should be part of it. Still, thank you." I set my phone down and returned to work, feeling something close to contentment. This was my life now. Successful career, beautiful sons, functional co-parenting, healthy dating, independence and strength earned through survival. Not the fairy tale I'd imagined as a girl, but something better, something real. The months flowed forward. Fall became winter, became spring. The twins thrived in kindergarten. My hotel project moved from design phase to implementation. Marcus and I grew closer, though I was careful not to rush anything. Griffin's relationship with Natalie also deepened. He asked if she could meet the boys 6 months in, as we'd discussed. I'd like to meet her first. Of course. Dinner? The 4 of us? Marcus can't make it this week, but I can meet her. Coffee? Perfect. Natalie was exactly as Griffin described. Mid-30s, warm smile, patient energy. She taught 2nd grade and genuinely loved children, which was obvious in how she talked about her students. "Griffin's told me a lot about you," she said. "About the boys, about how you've built your life. I hope he's told you the truth. The arranged marriage, the disaster, all of it." "He has." She met my eyes steadily. "I appreciate his honesty, and I want you to know I have no interest in replacing you or creating conflict. The boys have a mother. I'm just someone who cares about their father. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, I think you're good for him. He seems lighter around you. He's worked hard to become someone worthy of healthy love. We talked for an hour, and by the end, I genuinely liked her. She wasn't threatened by me, wasn't trying to compete. Just a kind woman who happened to care about my ex-husband. The boys can meet her, I told Griffin afterward. She's lovely. Thank you. That means a lot. The introduction went smoothly. August was shy initially, but Natalie brought picture books and won him over by reading with all the character voices. Everett decided immediately that she was fun and recruited her for a dance party. Watching Griffin with Natalie and our sons, I felt no jealousy, just satisfaction that he'd found someone good, someone who made him better. Marcus met the boys 2 weeks later. He brought materials for an art project, and they built cardboard castles together. I like Marcus, Everett announced at bedtime. He's funny. I like him too, August added. He listens good. I'm glad you like him. He's important to Mama. Are you going to marry him? August asked seriously. I don't know, baby. We're just spending time together and seeing how it goes. Okay, but if you do marry him, will we still see Dada? Always. Dada is your father forever. That never changes, no matter who Mama dates. Good. I love Dada. I know you do. And it was true. Despite everything, despite the terrible beginning, the boys loved their father. Griffin had earned that love through years of consistent presence. The hotel project launched to significant industry attention. Design magazines featured my work. I was invited to speak at conferences. Moreland Design Studios became a name people recognized. My father called crying, I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You took what they tried to destroy and built something even better. We built it, Dad. This was always your vision. I'm just expanding it. It's your vision now, and it's magnificent. Lawrence threw a launch party at his gallery, inviting everyone who mattered in the design world. Griffin came with Natalie. Marcus came as my date. Cameron brought his girlfriend. My parents beamed with pride. Looking around the room, I realized I'd built something extraordinary from absolute ruins. Not just the business, but the life, the family, however unconventional, the peace with my past. Griffin found me near the end of the evening. You did it, really did it. Built an empire. I built a life. The empire is just part of it. Still, I'm proud of you. Thank you. And Griffin, I'm proud of you too, for becoming someone worthy of being their father. That's all I ever wanted, to be worthy of them. You are. As the party wound down and guests departed, I stood with Marcus looking at the design mock-ups displayed on the walls. You're incredible, he said. You know that, right? I'm just stubborn. Same thing. He kissed me, gentle and sweet, and I let myself enjoy it. Let myself appreciate this healthy relationship with a good man who respected me. When I got home that night, I checked on the boys, both sleeping peacefully, safe, and loved. I sat in the rocking chair I'd bought for their nursery years ago and pulled out my journal, the one I'd started during the pregnancy, documenting everything for potential custody battles. I flipped through the pages. The wedding night, the blackmail discovery, the NICU terror, the legal separation, the custody hearing, year after year of fighting and surviving. And then, the later entries, the milestones and the laughter and the gradual transformation from survival mode to actually living. I wrote a final entry. 5 years ago, a man told me he'd only have children with the woman he loved. Tonight, those children are sleeping peacefully upstairs while I celebrate launching my dream career. I survived what was meant to destroy me. I transformed devastation into strength, and I built a life I don't need to escape from. I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become after. The epilogue of my story isn't romantic reconciliation or vengeful triumph. It's simply this: peace, hard won, carefully built, absolutely mine. And that's enough. The twins' kindergarten year ended with a celebration. Mrs. Chen praised both boys, noting August's reading advancement and Everett's creative problem-solving. They're remarkable children, she said. You should be very proud. I am. Griffin attended the end-of-year party with Natalie and we stood together, watching the boys perform a song about friendship with their classmates. Summer stretched ahead, beach trips and museum visits and lazy mornings without school schedules. I reduced my work hours to spend more time with the boys, hiring a project manager to handle day-to-day operations. One afternoon at the beach, August approached me seriously. "Mama, do you still love Dada? I love that he's your father. I love that he shows up for you. But we're not in love the way grown-ups are when they get married." "Why not?" "Because sometimes people start out wrong, and even when they fix themselves, the beginning was too broken to rebuild. But that doesn't mean we can't be good friends and good co-parents." "Oh," he processed this. "Do you love Marcus?" "I care about Marcus very much. Love is something that grows over time." "Does Dada love Natalie?" "You'd have to ask him that." Later, I texted Griffin about the conversation. August asked if we still love each other. I explained as gently as I could. His response came quickly. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That we care about each other as CO parents and friends, but we're not in love. That the beginning was too broken to rebuild romantically." "That's honest. Probably good for them to understand. How are things with Natalie?" "Good. Really good. I'm thinking about proposing, actually." I was quiet for a long moment, fingers hovering over the keyboard, then typed, "I'm happy for you. She's good for you. Thank you. That means a lot." "And Marcus? How serious is it?" "Serious enough that I'm considering introducing him to my parents." "That's big." "It is. You deserve happiness, Thea. Real happiness. So do you." And I meant it. Whatever pain existed in our past, I genuinely wanted Griffin to be happy now. Not for my sake, but for his. And for the boys, who deserved a father who was whole and healthy. Marcus met my parents on a Sunday in July. My father interrogated him about his intentions and his career and his 5-year plan. My mother asked about his family and his hobbies and whether he wanted children of his own. He handled it with grace, answering honestly, not threatened by their protective energy. Afterward, my mother pulled me aside. "He's a good man, kind eyes." "Are you happy?" "I am, Mom, really happy." "Then I'm happy for you." My father was more direct. "He's not going to hurt you like Griffin did." "Nobody's going to hurt me like Griffin did, Dad. I won't allow it. And Marcus is nothing like Griffin was. He's steady and honest, and he respects my boundaries." "Good. You deserve that." The summer days blurred together in the best way. Swimming lessons for the twins, picnics in the park, Marcus teaching the boys to fly kites, Griffin and Natalie taking them to the zoo. One evening, all of us ended up at the same community event. Me with Marcus and the boys, Griffin with Natalie. We ran into each other by the face painting booth. "This is wonderfully awkward," Marcus said cheerfully. "Or wonderfully modern," Natalie offered. Blended families making it work. The boys wanted their faces painted, so all 6 of us stood in line together. Strangers probably thought we were the weirdest group, 2 couples with shared children, but it worked. "Pizza after?" Griffin suggested. "There's that place the boys love." "Sure, why not?" We ate together at a loud family restaurant with arcade games and chaos. The boys ran between tables, hopped up on sugar and excitement. The adults made conversation, navigating the strangeness of this configuration. This is my life, I thought, watching August and Everett play skee-ball while their father and his girlfriend cheered them on. Unconventional and complicated, and absolutely fine. After dinner, Marcus drove me home while Griffin took the boys for his custody night. "That was surprisingly pleasant," Marcus said. "Griffin's become someone I can respect, and Natalie is lovely. Do you ever regret how things ended with him? Wonder if you could have made it work?" "No." I was quiet for a moment, considering my words. What Griffin and I had was never real. It was arranged and coerced, and built on cruelty. We're better as CO parents and friends than we ever would have been as romantic partners. And us? Are we real? We're as real as I'm capable of right now, which is more than I've been able to give anyone in years. He smiled. "I'll take it." That night, alone in my house without the twins, I worked on design mock-ups and thought about happiness. I was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. Not because of a relationship or career success or any external validation, but because I'd built a life that fit me, that honored who I'd become through survival. Griffin proposed to Natalie in September, a quiet proposal at the beach where they'd had their first date. She said yes, and he called to tell me before posting anything publicly. I wanted you to hear it from me. I appreciate that. Congratulations. When's the wedding? Next summer, probably. Small ceremony. Family and close friends. Will you want the boys in the wedding party? If that's okay with you. Of course it's okay. They should be part of their father's happy moments. Thank you, Thea, for being gracious about all of this. You've earned graciousness. And Natalie is good for you. I'm genuinely happy. After we hung up, I sat with complicated emotions. Not jealousy, not regret. Just the bittersweet acknowledgement of how different things could have been if we'd started differently. But we hadn't started differently. We'd started in cruelty and blackmail and arranged disaster. And we'd both done the hard work of building something functional from the ruins. That was worth celebrating. Marcus and I grew closer through the fall. He stayed over sometimes when the boys were at Griffin's. We talked about future possibilities without pressure. He met more of my friends. I met his family. It was healthy and normal, and sometimes I still waited for it to shatter. Still expected hidden cruelty or sudden abandonment. But Marcus was steady, reliable, exactly who he presented himself as. I'm falling in love with you, he said one November evening. I know that might be scary given your past, so there's no pressure to say it back. I just wanted you to know. I care about you deeply. Love is still hard for me to say after everything. I understand. Take your time. But I appreciated his honesty, his patience with my damage. The twins turned 6 in March, a big party with school friends and family. They'd requested a science theme, so we did experiments and volcano cakes and dry ice demonstrations. Griffin and Natalie came early to help set up. Marcus arrived with the dry ice. Lawrence and Michael brought presents. My parents managed crowd control. It was chaos and perfect. Watching August and Everett blow out their candles, surrounded by everyone who loved them, I felt overwhelming gratitude. 6 years ago, I was pregnant and terrified, fighting for my children before they were even born. Now they were confident and happy and secure in being loved by so many people. We did good, Griffin said quietly, standing beside me. We did. After the party, after everyone left and the boys were asleep, I sat in my home office, looking at old photos. The wedding photo where I looked terrified and Griffin looked detached. The first ultrasound of 2 tiny shapes. Photos from the NICU, the twins so small in their incubators. First steps, first words, first day of school. A story of survival and transformation. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Thank you for including me in the celebration. I love watching you with your boys. Thank you for being part of our lives. I'm falling more in love with you every day. Still no pressure. Just wanted you to know. I stared at those words for a long moment, then typed back. I think I'm falling too. Slowly, carefully, but definitely falling. His response was immediate. That's all I needed to hear. Spring became summer. Griffin and Natalie's wedding approached. The boys were ring bearers, taking their duties very seriously. The ceremony was beautiful. Small and intimate, on a hillside overlooking the ocean. Natalie wore a simple dress. Griffin cried during his vows. I sat with Marcus, watching my ex-husband marry a woman he actually loved, and felt nothing but happiness for him. At the reception, August and Everett danced with abandon. Griffin and Natalie had their first dance. Then Griffin danced with the boys, and Natalie danced with her nieces. It was joyful and uncomplicated. Later, Griffin found me at our table. Thank you for being here, for supporting this. Of course, the boys needed to see their father happy. And you? Are you happy? I am. Really, truly happy. Good. You deserve it more than anyone. We've both earned our happiness through a lot of hard work and therapy and choosing to be better. He smiled. To being better. To being better. We clinked glasses, and I felt the weight of our past finally truly lifting. That fall, Marcus asked me to move in with him. A bigger house with space for all of us. The boys would have their own rooms. We'd build a life together. I said yes. The twins adjusted well, excited about a new house and Marcus being around more. We established routines, blended our lives carefully. And one Saturday morning, watching Marcus make pancakes while the boys set the table and argued about syrup, I realized something profound. I was in love with him, completely, healthily in love. That night, after the boys were asleep, I told him, "I love you. I'm in love with you, and I'm ready to build a future together." He pulled me close. "I've been waiting to hear that. I love you too." It wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined as a young woman. It was better, built on honesty and mutual respect and choosing each other daily. The boys thrived. August excelled at reading and wanted to be a scientist. Everett discovered a love of music and started piano lessons. Griffin remained a consistent presence. Weekly dinners, alternating custody, school events. He and Natalie bought a house near ours, maintaining the close proximity that made Keo parenting easier. Adelaide remained mostly absent, having moved to the East Coast after the custody battle humiliation. She sent birthday cards and occasional gifts but maintained distance, which was exactly how I preferred it. Lawrence remained the boys' favorite adult after their parents. He taught them about art and history and how to be good humans. My business continued growing. More hotel contracts, residential developments, a feature in Architectural Digest. Marcus proposed on a random Tuesday evening. No fanfare or elaborate planning. "I love you and the boys. Will you marry me?" Yes. The wedding was small. Immediate family and close friends. The boys walked me down the aisle, one on each side. Griffin attended with Natalie, both genuinely happy for me. It was perfect, simple and real, and everything I needed. Standing at the altar with Marcus, looking at our blended family, I thought about that devastating wedding night 6 years earlier. If someone had told me then that this was my future, that I'd survive and thrive and find real love, I wouldn't have believed them. But I did survive, I did thrive, and I did find love, both for myself and from someone who actually deserved me. The past didn't disappear. The scars remained, but they were just scars now, evidence of survival rather than open wounds. And that was everything. Years flowed forward. The boys grew from 6 to 7 to 8. Griffin and Natalie had a daughter, giving August and Everett a half-sister they adored. Marcus and I talked about maybe having a child together, but decided our blended family was complete as it was. Moreland Design Studios became one of the premier firms on the West Coast. I hired talented designers, mentored young women entering the field, built something legacy-worthy. One evening, when the boys were 10, August asked a question during dinner. "Mama, do you ever regret marrying Dada first?" I thought carefully before answering. I regret how it started. I regret the pain and the fear and the cruelty. But I don't regret you and Everett. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, even though you came from really hard circumstances. "Do you love Dada?" "I love who he became. I respect him as your father and as someone who did the hard work of growing. But I'm not in love with him. That's reserved for Marcus." "Good." Everett grinned. "Because Marcus makes better pancakes." We all laughed, and the moment passed, another small conversation navigating our complicated history. That night, after everyone was asleep, I wrote in my journal, 15 years ago, a billionaire told me he'd only have children with the woman he loved. He was cruel and trapped and hurting, and he made me collateral damage. But from that devastation came August and Everett, came my strength, came my business empire, came my eventual real love with Marcus. I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become after, and what I became was strong, independent, loved, and whole. This is my happily ever after, not perfect, not fairy tale, but real and mine, and earned through surviving the unsurvivable. I closed the journal and went to bed beside Marcus, grateful for the journey, grateful for the destination, grateful for the woman I'd become. If you've made it this far in my story, I want to thank you. Thank you for witnessing this journey. Thank you for understanding that sometimes the greatest love story is learning to love yourself after someone breaks you. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that survival is possible, that strength can grow from devastation, that your worth is not determined by how others treat you. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, or just say I'm with you, Dr. Phillips. Tell me your story of survival. Tell me how you became who you are after the worst thing that happened to you, because we're all works in progress. We're all surviving something, and we're all capable of becoming more than our circumstances tried to make us. My name is Thea Moreland, and this was my story of arranged marriage, blackmail, survival, and ultimately, triumph. Thank you for being with me.